look at this little chocolate bar of goodness that I've got here. The iPhone SE, worth a damn in 2018? Let's talk about it right after the intro. Hey there friends on YouTube, my name's Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech, tech so honest it hurts. Today's video we're going to talk about the iPhone SE. Released in 2016 along with the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus as sort of like, I think of it as the iPhone Classic or Classique, whatever you want to call it. It's a nice little phone though. I've had it for a couple of days now and I've been carrying it around using it. And there's something about just having a phone like, I can actually almost make a fist with this thing in my hand. Just sits so nicely in my hand. I can one-hand this phone in a way that I have not been able to one-hand anything for... Alright, that didn't sound right, but you know what I mean. I can type one-handed, I can navigate the screen one-handed, I can hit the home button, all that kind of stuff. It's just so nice to be able to do that. And for me, this is the perfect phone design. And nothing has really, to me, gotten any better. Phones have gotten prettier, phones have become more functional, they've become more fashionable. But this, it's based on a Leica camera design. It's just, there's something so resonant about the design of this phone that I've always really liked. And so I figured I'd go out and pick one up. You can get a 32 gigabyte one right now from a carrier for $350. 32 gigabytes is not that great an amount of storage, but if you just need sort of a light use phone, something you want to carry around, or if you like smaller phones and you don't want to jam it full of a lot of media, then I think 32 can get you by, but it also comes in 128, and that would get you just about anything that you really need. I still think that 128 is the sweet spot for storage for a smartphone in this modern day and age. Speaking of modern day and age, is there a place for this guy? Well, let's go through some of the pros and cons, and then we'll just we'll kind of talk through it. It's easily pocketable. You could put this, if you were a business person and you put it in your breast pocket. I took this with me to the gym today, and it was just really nice to have something really small to take with me around to the machines and not have to worry about it. Oh, it doesn't fit in the cup holder. Oh, it doesn't fit in this little slot. Blah, blah, blah. It fit in everything. Fit nicely in a little slot in my car. Also, I've found that the battery life is simply incredible. I've had this thing, I charged it up last night, and then I needed to charge something else, so I unplugged this. And I left it on the nightstand, and I charged something else with the cable that I was using. And now it is 5:52 on Sunday evening, and it's at about 80% battery. Now, I haven't used it heavily, but I did use Bluetooth headphones at the gym because I don't like to get caught up in cables at the gym. I did use about 45 minutes worth of Bluetooth, and I've used it since then. So it's sitting here at 80% or so. I'm going to continue to use it until this charge runs out. I'm going to see how many days I can get through on one charge. So far, we're at about more than 18 hours, and we're at 80%. So we'll see how that goes, though. As I said, it's easy to use. It's one-handable in terms of typing and getting to all the apps and not having to shimmy or shake your way up and down the phone. I find that I can use my right hand with this phone. I'm right-handed, whereas with most other phones, I will hold it in my left and I will do stuff with my right. But with this, I can just use the right, and this one's free to do whatever else it wants to do. The build, as I said, is incredibly strong. Like this thing, I cannot bend it at all. I really can't. I'm putting a good amount of pressure on here, and this thing is not moving. Not moving a little bit. Jerry rig everything, eat your heart out, but I too can try and bend a Another pro is that even though it's the cheapest iPhone that you can get, it still has the same camera on the back as the 6S and 6S Plus, shoots 4K. I'm gonna do a little test. I'm gonna take a couple of pictures with this. I'm gonna take a couple of pictures with the OnePlus 5T that I'm also reviewing right now, and I'm gonna just put them up side by side or one after the other, and you guys tell me which one is which. And we'll see if it's easy to tell. I haven't taken the pictures yet, so I don't know if it's going to be easy to tell, but you tell me if it is. You let me know down in the comments. Is picture A or picture B the iPhone SE? That'll a little test, a little audience participation test, and I'll give you guys the answer in about a week or so. I'll pin it to the top of the comments so you can know which one is which. And those of you who watch the video later, well, you can cheat if you want to, but that's no fun. The last thing I want to say is of course, the headphone jack. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that the headphone jack is incredibly important to me. And this has a headphone jack. And that, coupled with the very small form factor, makes it really nice to just, have with you and to consume media, whereas honestly something like this or the iPhone 6S Plus or any of the Plus models of the iPhone, this is a lot to sort of carry around with you if you're just casually going about your day wanting to listen to some tunes or whatever. So I appreciate that. There are some cons, however, and we'll go through those now. As much as I like the small form factor, it is small. And if you're a person who's gotten used to, or you just really can't see yourself getting into using a smaller phone like this, then this is not the phone for you. It doesn't have, super AMOLED, blah-de-blah screen or anything like that, but the screen itself is really nice looking, very sharp, very responsive. I have not been able to see any kind of pixels or, it's the kind of thing where if I were to put it up against something like the OnePlus 5T or the Note 8 or the iPhone 10, then probably I would see a difference. But just looking at this phone and its screen all by itself, I do not feel while I'm looking at it like I'm having some sort of negative experience. I found that at first I was trying to two-hand type on this thing, and you can do it, but yeah, I got these big hands, kind of chunky fingers, and I found that two-hand typing was difficult. But now I can go back to the old way of just one-hand typing, which is something that has gone the way of the dodo, if you know what I mean. Finally, in the con area, there is no 3D touch, which I never use anyway. If you use 3D touch, let me know down in the comments, because I don't use it hardly at all, except when I want to move stuff around or something. So tell me what you use 3D touch for. And it also has a pretty rotten front-facing camera. I think it's 1.5 megapixels or something, 1.25. So not that great of a front-facing camera, but I do not do selfies all that much, although this is a selfie. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That brings us back to the question, is the iPhone SE still a viable choice in 2018? As time goes on, this form factor looks, I'm not going to say it looks dated, because as with a lot of Apple stuff, it goes from looking contemporary to looking classic without ever looking dated. And this does not feel to me or look to me to be dated. The real question is whether or not you or anyone else would want to go back to a smaller form factor phone like this. My thought is this. Before we got into the larger screen phones, there was sort of, each device had its own little niche, its own little category that it excelled at. And so Apple sort of laid everything out. It was phone for on the go, and getting your messages and taking a couple of quick notes and looking at your reminders and that kind of thing. But then once the first iPad came out, much like this iPad Pro 10.5 inch, this took over the media consumption and maybe some more heavy note taking or something like that. And then you had your laptops, which were when you really had to sit down and do some work, but you were on the go. And then the base station of the whole thing was something like the iMac. One of the really beneficial things about the Apple ecosystem, and I think why a lot of people get drawn into it and sucked into its web, is that whatever you create on here can then be accessed on just about any other Apple device that you have. And that is really nice. And I think that when Steve Jobs designed this form factor of a phone, that's kind of what he had in mind, was having devices that sort of moved up the line. If you think about using your phone that way, not as a catch-all, jack of all trades, master of none, but just, this big thing that you can stick in your face, then yes, there is a place for the iPhone SE. Over the past couple of days, I have really enjoyed using this phone. It's going to take me a couple of more days to really decide if it's something that I could use on a long-term basis, but I really do like how solid and comfortable it feels just holding it in my hand, and how it disappears when I put it into my pocket. It's now a classic design, but it still has a lot of relevance in 2018. And at a price starting at $349, if you're on a budget but you want iOS, then this is something that you could buy and be totally satisfied with. You can even get it prepaid. I think they're 16 gigabyte models, but you can get them prepaid for $150 for a prepaid iPhone SE, and that's a bargain. That's a bargain. So to me, yes, iPhone SE, totally worth it in 2018. It's still got all the chops in terms of the specs. It's exactly the same phone inside as the iPhone 6s, giving up a couple of things like 3D touch, like a decent front-facing camera. Tell me what you think down in the comments. Could you use a 4-inch phone in your daily life these days? Let me know. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech's so honest, it hurts! Until the next time, I'm out.